Good morning, Jamie McIntyre here on behalf of the Australian National Review.com. Today I just want to talk a little bit about some of the updates of what's happening in this crazy world with the coronavirus. Obviously, my dear poor fellow Victorian friends and family. Yesterday, as you know, Dan Andrews announced that he's intending to extend the lockdowns to as long as 18 months. Those who weren't already concerned that Dan Andrews has lost the plot and is a complete lunatic, then certainly now we have confirmation. This is the same Premier, by the way, that in April, if you check his Facebook feeds, said Victorians are no longer allowed to have guns. We don't want Victorians stockpiling guns. At the same time, though, exact same time, Dan Andrews, your Premier, was stockpiling semi-automatically and high powerful assault weapons for the Victorian Police. Now, I don't know whether you can start to see some pre-planning behind all this, but why would the Victorian Police, at the same time they're de-arming or preventing any Victorians trying to apply for a gun license to be able to protect their families against, an out-of-control police force, the police force are being given at the same time high-powered assault weapons? I don't know, that should make you feel a little bit uneasy in your Victoria and don't think that it's not other closet communists. Here's my message very clearly to the Victorian Police and any police officers in Australia. Let me make it very clear to you. Some of you are very good people. Some of you aren't. Some of you are what we call closet communists. Power corrupts and power goes to your head. We're seeing the abuse by Victorian police officers already in Victoria. Let me send you a very strong message and straight to also to the Victorian Police Commissioner. Know this. You are being videoed, you are being watched. So when this is all said and done, and there's a new form of government, we're not just talking about Labor or Liberal here, a whole new political system put in place around the world, including Australia, which is coming very rapidly. You traitors, you people that have suppressed or done the wrong thing in these times, you'll be tracked, you're being videoed, you'll be recorded, and you will go to the appropriate place when you lose the power over the people. And that appropriate place will be jail. So I dare you to continue your treatment of the Victorian people and see what happens to you. You might think you have power now, but you're not going to have for much longer. By 2021 or late 2020, there's going to be a few changes in this world. Yes, I say to the Victorian people, it's very difficult right now, but just record any police interactions, just record any abuse, get their names, etc., because they will be held fully to account. So will gutless politicians and traitors such as Dan Andrews, our Queensland Premier, and other politicians in this country. You're being watched, you're being set up to see who are the traitors to our country. So thank you for displaying very clearly and obviously who are the traitors, and that has been noted, and we look forward to having you held accountable for your actions. So I say to the Victorian people and all Australian people and people around the world, have faith. We're not in this alone. There is a large contingent, a large united army of people around the world that are a force for good and are working day and night on overcoming this attempted globalist takeover of the planet. And everything's going to be okay. It will be rocky in the beginning, particularly leading up to November, to the US election. There's going to be some challenging times. But remember, on the other side of this, the struggle is worth it. The world needed to go through this to highlight who the criminals are, who the traitors are, who are the gutless cowards, who are the people that are closet communists in our society, let power go to their head, think they can get away with their greed and their an abuse of power. Then these people needed to be outed, and they are being outed. So they're falling for it hook, line and sinker. There's a new world order coming, and what's good about it, it's not the new world order they intended. So these criminals, keep it up. We're videoing you, we're recording you, and we're going to see you sent off to jail. That's if you're lucky. Push it too hard, you won't even get jailed. You won't make it that far. So I say to the Australian people, keep strong, keep focused, be united. Fight back, but fight back at this stage and push back. There's protest rallies being arranged for Victoria. You have to do it in unison. So yes, you're entitled to be angry, and you need to. You can't be too laid back. I was doing an interview last night with Charlie Ward from Spain, and he was saying how, he's played rugby union against Australians before. Like, Australians were known for being very tough, but he's like, he doesn't understand how come Australians are not pushing back or doing anything. They just seem like And I said, look, it's not that Australians don't have courage. It's just that Australians are quite placid, quite laid back by our character. But that's only till we get to a certain point. We hit that threshold and then, people should run. Australians are always very good soldiers in the war and very tough and very gritty. But we just have to be, pushed enough. We're easygoing by nature, which is good, but we have to start pushing back. So remember, for those who, and I also said a lot of people are going through confusion. People are waking at a rapid rate right now. So a lot of people are still trying to get their head around what the hell is going on. And that's why I say to many of you, where the confusion comes from, if you still think this is about a virus, what you've got to understand with the New World Agenda, the attempted globalist attempts, this has been planned for a long time. The idea of a centralized global government, where one world government, one world central banking, one world currency, one world tax. So these have been planned for some time. Now, they first tried to do this, as you know, with the global warming theory, which some would refer to as a global warming scam. The idea of that was to create a carbon tax, remember? Same people, same dodgy globalists, same dodgy in Soros and Gates and Clintons and the other globalists and deep state behind all these agendas. They needed a carbon tax so they could implement environmental laws that would supersede our national sovereignty and our state-based sovereignty, so the one world United Nations government could dictate to the rest of the world. Now, that was working pretty well, but too many people started to wake up that, hang on, the global warming is an unproven theory. And although that we want to protect and preserve our environment, we don't have to sign up for this fraud of a one world government that was not going to help the environment, when we could do a lot more about helping the environment. We simply get rid of these criminals that want to extort billions or hundreds of billions or trillions of dollars from our taxpayer money. Also, the global warming scam wasn't urgent enough. It was like, one day we don't do something, the planet might overheat. So it's not that I don't believe in climate change. It's just that I know what was causing the climate change. Things that used to be conspiracy theories, such as geoengineering and chemtrails, and all these things were some crazy conspiracy theory, which is no longer theory, definitely a conspiracy, but have been proven. And how do we know how much fucking with the weather have they done to create the change in the climate? And now they're trying to spin that, once again, Gates, that, we were trying to block out the sun to, cool the planet, and we're trying to create rain and all this sort of stuff. Yeah, whatever, Gates. I think you're the biggest fraudster on the planet, and I know where you learned it from, because your dad was renowned as a con man, a spiv. Those who knew him, his dad was friends with the Rockefellers, George Soros when he was younger, the little elitist. So these people want to depopulate the planet, etc. And I'll talk about that in another video. What are the lists of some of their agendas with the one world government? Why they don't tell you about their agendas and aren't transparent and honest about it? You know why. Why they have to deceive us and try and get us to involuntarily agree to their conditions is because they know we'd never settle for a communist, totalitarian, one world future. The idea of centralized control in the hands of anyone, even that person was good, is not healthy. We want the world to go back the other way. I think the world will be better off, instead of being centralized control, the opposite, micronations. And I think there's going to be a trend after this of micronations. Why do we have to all live under the same rules? What if you wanted to go and create your own commune or, your own province, and like-minded people and go, we want a new education system that's a modern-day education system. We don't want our children to be vaccinated. We don't want all these pharmaceutical drugs. We want to boost the immune system. We want to live in a different way, so you could go and live in different areas where like-minded people want to live and abide by shared values and common rules. That's the future of the world. Micronations and smaller micronations unified, working together in alliances is powerful. So I'm a nationalist, and in the sense that I think national sovereignty is very important, and I do not support the globalist agenda for centralized control. We only have to see the damage that is done. So that didn't work, so they needed a new thing. So the coronavirus, if you're not aware, is being planned, is a multi-billion-dollar business being planned for 20 years. Fauci and other dodgy characters like that have been working on this. This is what explains why you'll see the coronavirus has been patented. The coronavirus test kits have been patented. These have been produced. Anything to do with even human transmission of the coronavirus is patented. You can't patent something that's natural. Does that make sense? If you do, it's illegal. So if it's natural and they're patented, it's illegal. You can't also, you can only patent something that's been created, say such as in a lab. which is also illegal because they're not meant to create these as bioweapons to be used against people. So what you must understand, the coronavirus is not new. It's a multi-billion-dollar industry that's been planned, and why they want to use a virus, it's an easy way to scare people. So with WHO, the new world government, and now is WHO, World Health Organization, and they're able to enact, so what they did was they changed the power of the emergency powers through WHO over the years, in recent years particularly, so that those powers could supersede our federal government even. That's how you've now seen WHO, which is run by, guess who? Bill Gates, by the way. Bill Gates is the largest single donor, and the largest donor by any, if he was even a country, to WHO. You don't pay $400 million a year to not have influence. And guess who's the president of WHO? One of Billy Gates' employees has been on the payroll of Billy Boy Gates for a long time. Billy Boy Gates owns WHO, if you don't realize that. WHO answers to Bill Gates. And that's just the way it is. You want to argue that, go and find for proof, you won't find it. He is in charge. So our de facto global health minister and our de facto one world president right now is Bill Gates. So, you know, he believes in depopulation. He discovered his ability to scam with statistics with the AIDS scam. Him and Fauci cut their teeth on AIDS scam. If you didn't realize the scam around AIDS, not that AIDS wasn't deadly, but how they milked and embellished and exaggerated how many people died of AIDS to extort hundreds of billions of dollars from governments. That's how they learn about how to do this, lying with statistics. So the coronavirus is a much more effective way to get people to agree to put a mask on, to agree to be locked down, agree to introduce socialism and destroy businesses and put people on JobKeeper, which is, you know, universal basic income where you can be controlled and increase the powers of the government and the state. And now in Victoria, we never thought this would ever happen, but, you know, poor Victorians are basically in house arrest, can't leave their house, can't effectively leave their state, can't flee this crumbling crony little state of Victoria, which has suffered irreparable damage. You got to help the economy in the future with Victoria, all from this little dictator, because they're communists. Now, of course, anywhere there's a Labor, and I don't want to get politically, but anywhere there's Labor state governments in Australia, you need to be very concerned, because Labor is socialism, socialism is communism. That's why they're in bed with China, as the Clintons are, and the Democrats. Socialist one world agenda. So if we're okay living under like China, totalitarian future where everything is tracked, you have a vaccine chip, you'll pay for things with that, you'll be tracked, they'll depopulate the planet with the vaccines. See, the coronavirus is not very good at killing people. Unless you're already sick and dying, it's very hard to be listed as, you know, dying of the coronavirus. Even though, as you know, they've inflated the deaths, case numbers are a joke. Why would you record cases? You should only record people that are sick. Not enough people sick to record sick people, because it wouldn't scare anyone. And here's Dan Andrews, the dickhead premier of Victoria, going, he's preventing the media from being able to release the statistics of how many, sadly, Victorians have committed suicide as a result of these excessive, ludicrous, unnecessary lockdowns. Because, folks, he said he doesn't want to alarm the public. This is the same dictator moron that is alarming the public because he's desperate now. There's not enough cases in Victoria to justify his control and takeover of Victoria, that they're rushing out into Victoria, rural areas where there is no coronavirus, and increasing the testing rapidly, because to increase the case, you need to increase the testing. If you test 50,000 people in a day, can only find 300 cases. What's your margin for error? Your margin for error is higher than 300 cases. There could be 300 false positives, and they're not 300 new cases. Many of the same cases were counted day before that. And many people haven't even been tested. They're still counted as cases. And what's cases mean? 99% of those won't even get sick. The few that get symptoms, guess what the symptoms are like? Flu-like symptoms. Go figure. Coronavirus is a member of the flu family. Flu-like symptoms. How would you know? Well, it's the coronavirus flu, it's another flu, whatever you got. People think they have the coronavirus, even though a small amount of people get it. How would they know they have the coronavirus? What, the test? The tests tell you have the coronavirus. The tests aren't even designed for testing coronavirus, not even accurate. It's a complete and utter fraud. Oh, but Jamie, people are dying. Yes, I'm not saying people aren't dying. Dying of what exactly? How many people have actually solely died from COVID that weren't already sick and dying or were unhealthy? That'd be an interesting statistic, wouldn't it? We'd be looking at maybe 1%. 5% of the death tally around the world, which would make it so mild it wouldn't be a pandemic. You realize whether you want to argue about this, is not big enough to be a pandemic. That's why in 2010 they had the definitions since then changed of a pandemic to make it easier, because they got caught out in 2010 trying to hype a normal flu strain out of South America into a pandemic, and scientists and doctors caught them out. So they changed the definition to make it easier this time, if you're not aware. So when they try this scam again in 2020, which happened to be US election year, they would hopefully get away with it, because once it's deemed a pandemic, they can rape and pillage tens of billions, or effectively hundreds of billions of dollars from governments around the world that has to be paid in pre-existing contracts to vaccine drug companies for medical research grants, vaccines, blah, 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 etc. And now WHO, run by Gates, has asked for $301 billion more. It's a massive fraud. While you're thinking about how does this fraud work, you've already been fleeced, folks. So if you're getting confused, the numbers don't add up, it can't really be, you're getting confused because it's not about a virus. Global warming theory was not about protecting the environment. The virus is not about the virus, it's about ushering in a new world agenda, and they think they can get away with it. They're not. They're not going to get away with it. It's exciting times in the world, and they're going to lose. But in the meantime, we want to see who these traitors are, and they're showing their faces. So remember them. Any police brutality in Victoria, they give you a hard time, record it, keep a record of it, share it on profiles, because we'll be using this against them to arrest those police officers in the future when the new form of government comes in, the new political system. Any politicians, please go ahead and highlight your treason to Australia. Any politicians supporting mandatory vaccinations, you're a traitor to this country, and you'll be going to jail as well. So keep it up, dodgy traitors. And I've had enough of gutless politicians in this country. Those politicians that want to ever be politicians when this new world order comes into place, not the new world order they think that's coming, we're a surprise for you all, then stand up now and say to the public that you do not support mandatory vaccinations. If you don't, I can tell you this, you're going to jail. Police officers, you abuse or hurt or touch one fellow Australian, we're going to send you to fucking jail. So I dare you. I say to Australians, you have every right to defend yourself. You have every right to legally get guns. You need to now protect your family. Everything's going to be okay in the long term. But to prevent war, to prevent civil war, you need to be able to threaten to go to war. Does that make sense? The ability to threaten increases the likelihood of not having to go to war. I'm saying Australians, they have the power right now to forcibly, when the vaccine comes out, to remove your children and vaccinate your children, forcibly vaccinate you. You're entitled to defend yourself. These fuckers, power go to the head. They will be held accountable, but it's going to be a little bit rocky until all that transition can happen. So I wish you the best. Keep learning. Things are changing by the day, but let me make a clear warning to any traitor in this country, any dodgy police officer, you will be held to account.